Namaste. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whichever part of the world you are in. A very warm welcome to each and every one of you on our session today. We are on the 17th day of the Global Festival of Yoga. Yes, we are on the 17th day of the Global Festival of Yoga, and we are in the evening session. In the morning, we had a very important session on spiritual inspiration for social healing. Today, we have another session this evening on the session is going to be on wellness through yoga and Ayurveda, an Irish experience. And the speaker that we have with us is Rutger Kortenhorst. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce you to Rutger ji. I've had the great pleasure and good fortune of knowing him for almost now, I think almost 17 years or so. It's a long time, it's a long association. I can only say that the association has deepened, and from the moment we have met, I've always been extremely touched by his dedication for the Sanskrit language. And a little about him: Rutger Kortenhorst is originally from Holland, but he has settled in Ireland since many years. He is a well-being and practical philosophy teacher for teenagers between the ages of 12 and 18 in the John Scotus School in Ireland, and also a Sanskrit teacher for children of the age group of 5 and 12 years. He's also one of the senior members of the School of Philosophy and Economic Science, which is a worldwide organization that that is inspired actually by the philosophy of the Shankaracharya of the north, of the Jyotirmat. And it's through the Shankaracharya that they came in contact with Vedanta, and it's a group which has been practicing meditation, Vedanta philosophy, Sanskrit. They have been trying to tap into the mystic traditions from across the world. It's a very inspiring organization. He teaches adults there Sanskrit, Vedanta, and Vedanta philosophy, as well as meditation. And his one of his biggest contributions is that he has written Sanskrit textbooks for children in the West to help them learn this language in a joyful manner using music, etc. And they've got some wonderful little video clips on how to, on trying to see how these children are enthused with this joyful approach to learning the so-called tough language, which is not there in their milieu otherwise. And besides this, as a very typical Dutchman, he's passionate about great outdoor activities like cycling and walking. And he has a very close connection with India, which I can say is like his second home, or it's the home away from home in another continent. So we've also had the good fortune, both Vinayji and I, of teaching at the John Scotus School. We've taught some Sanskrit with Rutger, and been able to partake of their different workshops where people from across the globe meet, study Sanskrit, and go into deep contemplation on verses from the Upanishads, from the Gita, and try and see how they can integrate it in their life itself. So, with these few words, Rutgerji, a great pleasure, and it's a very warm welcome to you on this session today. We look forward to hearing your talk on wellness through yoga and Ayurveda, an Irish experience. We will be keeping the chat closed for the audience, but please feel free to write your questions in the Q&A box, and look forward to taking them at the end. Thank you very much. Namaste. Hardika Swagatam.
Dhanyavada Anurada Bhagini. So, Arambha. Huh? So, well, Anu has said some very lovely things about me. Thank you, Anu. Good start. So I'm going to share talk with you now. It is in a PowerPoint presentation, and it's really about the joy of well-being. So here you see some children outside the school gate, and the sea in the background, and it's obviously a rainy day, like usually in Ireland, but anyway, this is just, they're so happy to do well-being. You can see that, obviously. They often, when I notice some work has to be done on the grounds of our school, like for example here they're collecting grass, so I immediately say, oh, well-being class, we must use this. They'll love being outside and helping collecting the grass and putting it in the spot, and you can see the school in the background there, and the children working away raking the grass. They're also planting trees, learning how to plant trees, and hopefully they will plant many trees in their lives. And this is the website that I use to explain the whole Ayurveda and Yoga Sutras from. So if you want to look at that later, it's sanskrit.ie. At the moment, you're going to look at Ayurveda, which for us means physical well-being. So as you know, the word Ayurveda is made of two words, Ayus and Veda. So literally the science of life, or the knowledge of life, or the knowledge of life, and a healthy lifestyle, really. It's part of the Atharva Veda, they say. So this is the definition we use. One who has balanced doshas, I'll go into that in a moment, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Agnis, fires, that is quite I know not so much about Agni, but there's obviously fires within us that keep us, even enthusiasm and things like that is a fire. Then the dhatus, the bits and pieces we're made of. So our 7 blood and plasma and bones and marrow and all that. And then there is how you dispose of your waste from the body, the malas. And so if that is all regulated properly, and you have well-being in yourself, and your mind is calm, and your senses are working properly, then you're called healthy. So this is the definition from Ayurveda. So I'll explain some of that in a moment. So these are the sort of things we tell the children. They need to get physical, not always be buried in their mobile phones. There is a time for everything. So a little bit of everything is all right. It's important, food, we talk a lot about food because healthy food is extremely important. And to know when enough is enough. And to stop for a little piece now and then. We stop and begin our classes with a little pause, and we finish our classes with a little pause. So this should become a habit as we grow older, that we always stop for a little piece. And it just means you're fresh at the end of the day. And then they need to study, obviously. We all need to study a little. And sleep. And it is quite shocking in Ireland. A lot of the students I teach say they do not sleep well. So it is a significant thing to consider, how we can sleep properly. Obviously, if all these things are in place, then you will also sleep properly. Some of the students have said things like this: I went to bed earlier each number of days. I didn't notice a major difference on the first couple of days. Over time, I began to notice some changes. For example, I was more energized in the morning, which made it a lot easier to wake up in the morning. I was more focused during the day, and it made me have a lot of a clearer mind. So this is one observation. Another boy said, I've been sleeping without bringing his mobile phone to his bedroom. So it was hard at first. Although I put a lot of effort into my project, some people still didn't believe I did. It impacted on my sleep and made it easier to fall asleep. This impacted my mood because I was not tired as much. It was a good project and I'm going to continue doing it. So you can see we're suggesting many, many things to students, and they can pick some of these ideas and practice them. And then we talk about them. Now, an important thing that children don't realize, but we do as adults, is that what you practice now these will be your habits for the rest of your life. So if you're into eating fast foods, or if you're a sporty person, or if you're eating healthy food, if you go outside a lot, or if you just watch telly all day and play video games, or if you do your yoga exercises, they will have outcomes, which you see at the bottom here. So later on in life, these people will either be imprisoned by their bad habits, or they'll be freed by their good habits. So it's very much a matter of learning good habits and encouraging bad habits. So spending so much time with good habits, there's no time left for the bad ones. So we talk a lot about food. It's important to taste your food and not eat your ideas. So when we eat, we should really taste what we eat. And a lot of the time, that is not so easy to do, actually, because you may taste your first few mouthfuls. And after that, you may start thinking about many other things, or get distracted by something, or a conversation, or your mobile phone, or all these other things that can distract people. The food should be fresh, pure, and wholesome. And it's important to have good meals, a hearty breakfast, an early lunch, and an early dinner, so that the body can have a good rest in between. The stomach shouldn't be working all day long. It should just have a few meals. And we don't encourage, in Ayurveda, we don't encourage snacking or grazing. So less sweets usually than they do have, and no snacking in between meals. Now they are growing, so they may actually have 5 meals a day, which is even not a problem, as long as in between those times they don't eat even more. And then an early dinner, so that 3 hours before your last meal, your stomach gets time to relax and not have to function too much. Otherwise, you get a lot of dreams at night, which aren't helpful for your sleep. So this is what one girl said: I practiced only eating when I was hungry. I chose to do this because it's very challenging for me, as I tend to eat when I'm bored. I thought this is such an honest observation. I did this, and I'm still doing this, as it improves my well-being immensely. I found myself being more energetic and enthusiastic in school. This is strange because I'm usually very tired and grumpy in the mornings. So these are interesting observations from young people. Yes, I'll just spend a bit of time. I just have to turn on my speaker definitely in one moment. Now, so we explained the 3 doshas, which you know about, the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. We'll explain them like this. So I'm going to play this to you. So this is explaining to them that the Vata energy is like a monkey energy. It's playful, enthusiastic, and full of movement, but in turn fearful and running away, leaving tasks undone. So this is a quality of Vata type people. Then for the Pitta type people,
the cub is beginning to understand his mother's changing demeanor. Every posture has a special meaning. When she has a target in her sights, nothing will break her concentration.
So you can see this Pitta energy is like a tiger energy, majestic, in control, looking good, playing hard, but can get angry and fierce. You can see her pouncing on her prey.
She has taken her prey completely by surprise. She brings it down.
And then finally, which is helpful because kapha energy is like an elephant energy. It has stability and strength and a great memory. And it can hold a family together. You could see a lot of family there, but can be stubborn and in denial of the facts. So these three doshas, vata energy, like a monkey energy, playful, enthusiastic, and full of movement, but in turn fearful and running away, leaving tasks undone. Pitta energy, like a tiger energy, majestic, in control, looking good, playing hard, but can get angry and fierce. And kapha energy, has stability and strength like an elephant with a great memory. It can hold a family together, but can be stubborn and in denial of the facts. So it's an easy introduction into the three doshas, which are very important in Ayurveda. Now, here's an observation from a student. So he's talking about eating again. They talk a lot about food, children. At the start of the first week, I found not eating snacks very difficult, but eventually started only eating when I'm hungry as a habit. When I would go out with my friends on the weekends, I would not eat McDonald's or get ice cream if I was not hungry. I'm still doing this as I find it very beneficial. I've become a happier, more energetic person. I would definitely recommend this to anyone. So we also look at posture. So for example, they walk around their school block with books on their heads and they shouldn't fall off. And you can see it's during lockdown times, so they're all wearing masks and sitting 2 meters apart. So, but it's all about posture. And they enjoy this exercise with the books on their heads.
Is that right? You know what? Maybe there's a good reason donkeys shouldn't talk.
I don't get it, Shrek. Why don't you just pull some of that ogre stuff on him? You know, throttle him, lay siege to his fortress, grind his bones to make your bread. You know the whole ogre trip.
Oh, I know what. Maybe I could have decapitated an entire village and put their heads on a pike, got a knife, cut open their spleen and drink their fluids. Does that sound good to you?
No, not really, no.
For your information, there's a lot more to ogres than people think.
Example?
Example? Okay, ogres are like onions.
They stink?
Yes. No.
Oh, they make you cry?
No.
Oh, you leave them out in the sun, they get all brown, start sprouting little white hairs.
No. Layers. Onions have layers. Ogres have layers. Onions have layers. You get it. We both have layers.
Oh, you both have layers. Oh. You know, not everybody likes onions. Cake! Everybody loves cakes. Cakes have layers.
I don't care what everyone likes. Ogres are not like cakes.
You know what else everybody like? Parfaits. Have you ever met a person you say, hey, let's get some parfaits? They say, hell no, I don't like no parfaits. Parfaits are delicious.
No! You dense, irritating miniature beast of burden. Ogres are like onions. End of story. Bye-bye. See you later.
Okay, these introductions help a lot because now they're interested in what these layers are. So the gross body is the first layer. The next one, the Sthulam Shariram. So then we've got the subtle body, the Sukshmam Shariram, which is more to do with thinking and feeling. The causal body, the Karanam Shariram, which is where the ego is from, the will, intuition. And then there's this center, the inner creative center, the true self. So once they've seen the Shrek movie, they get this very quickly. And so then we move on to the 7 constituents of the body. And the lesson to be learned is really that it all starts with food. So food makes plasma and blood. Refined rasa makes muscle. And then from the muscle, the refined part is fat. The refined part of that is bone, marrow, and then the sperm and ovum. So the most refined marja. So why is this so important? Because it all starts with food. So everything in the body began with popping some food into your mouth, etc. So, so from what we eat and drink, one part is excreted as waste, one part turns into plasma and blood, and one part turns into mind. This is often forgotten. That's, you know, this is it, not just the maintenance of the body, but also it'll have an effect on your mind. So if we put in wholesome food, we get a strong and vigorous body and better quality thoughts and feelings. And if we put in rubbish food, we get a weak, vigorless body and poor quality thoughts and feelings. So it's important to get that message. So then we spent quite a bit of time during the year, about a month, on just morning routines. What should you do in the morning to prepare yourself, apart from the usual things like getting up and, you know, washing your face? Some warm water helps. Bowel movements should be had early in the morning, according to Ayurveda. You should not just clean your teeth, but also your tongue and your mouth. And gargle. There should be some exercise, some yogasana. You should chew. The chewing gum is not a great example, but you should chew your food, all right? So wash, get fresh clothes, maybe use some nice smelling deodorants and so on to give you confidence. And then some breathing exercises, a little meditation, and have a good, decent breakfast, and then off you go to school. So that would take quite a long time to do this. It's not a 5 minutes, get out of bed and into school. So they need to get up earlier and do all this. And if they take this on as a challenge, they really find it very interesting. I got really wonderful reports. So they fill in a table like this each day. So if you were like a wise person or a confused person, or somebody who was in between a wise person and confused person, what would you do? You would prepare your bag the previous night, have your clothes ready, and take a bit of time getting ready, or you do it but you're rushed, or you do nothing. You just tumble out of bed and you run to school. Do you over or undersleep? So now that depends for everybody. It won't be the same amount of hours. But it's important to consider, how much time do I spend sleeping? And is it making me more tired, or is it making me fresh? Do I get up when I wake up? This is a very powerful exercise, and they love this exercise. So literally, you don't start thinking or turning over and going back to bed after you wake up. You get up when you wake up. That's quite a difficult discipline. Most people haven't mastered it. So they are trying this as youngsters, and they're really interesting observations from this exercise. Then you might massage your eyes as you're waking up. You may express some gratitude, a prayer for the welfare of the world, or just for your own well-being, or you don't do it at all. There is, you know, do you clean your mouth and so on, oral hygiene and a shower and wash. So the evacuation is important. Physical exercise before you start your day, some yoga workout, conscious breathing, and a little meditation, and then a good healthy breakfast. So these are, they record this over a month, and then they come back and we discuss it. Well, we actually discuss it each week, and they listen to each other's observations. Okay, the senses. So the sense of hearing connected to space, sense of touch connected to the element of air, sense of sight connected to the element of fire, sense of water connected, taste connected to the element of water, and the sense of smell connected to the element of earth. We discuss very much the underuse or the overuse of the senses. Some senses can be easily under or overused, whereas that won't be a problem so much for, say, smell, but it would be a problem for, let's say, when you're looking at people. Do you use your senses properly? Do you look at people, or do you look away all the time? Or do you stare at them too much? when you listen, are you listening with both ears, or are you just half listening? Or are you using your headphones so much that you're going deaf? Or is the volume too loud? So all these things we need to discuss. And then, you know, what is a healthy sense of touch? It's good to get a hug and to give a hug and to mean it. And so underuse of that is a problem. For example, people who have Asperger's, they might not like touch. So they may have to start with an animal to get familiar with the touch of some non-threatening, like a dog they would like to cuddle with. So to learn the sense of touch again. So all these have to be in balance. So we discussed the senses. The 6 tastes, so salty, sour, sweet, astringent, bitter, and pungent, or spicy. So there are 6 tastes, and it's good to have some of them, but it depends on your dosha type, which is good for you and which is not. Your tongue registers these, different parts of the tongue register these in different places, as you can see. And so if you're a Vata type person, sweet, sour, and salty are good flavors for you, and the other ones can aggravate. If you're a Pitta type person, bitter, astringent, and sweet are good for you, and the others can aggravate you. And if you're a Kapha type person, pungent, bitter, and astringent are the better flavors, and the others aren't. So there's a table here which has the same information, and we discuss what sort of foods are have these qualities, so that they have an idea what foods, you know, let's say banana is not just sweet, but it has this astringent flavor as well. Same with honey. So that's about that. Now I'll spend a little bit of time on yoga, and then we'll wrap up. So the second part of the course is Yoga Sutras. Actually, not yoga, but Yoga Sutras, because Patanjali speaks a lot about mental well-being, really, in the Yoga Sutras. Not so much about postures and so on. In fact, it's all about mental well-being. We had a visiting yoga teacher from Amma. She came and she taught, she's here on the left, you can see her. And the students all did yoga exercises with her, which was a lovely thing to do. Now I've lost my mouse. Sorry about this. I see something moving again. Okay. Yes, we're back here. Okay, so carry on. So this is we also do this outside quite a bit, because especially since COVID, we've been having classes outside more than inside, even if the weather isn't so good. So this is really what we want to explain to students, that yoga is a stilling of the fluctuations of the mind and heart. The numbers there are reference to the Yoga Sutras there, 1.2, chapter 1, verse 2, and so on. So, and then the verse 3 talks about, then the seer abides in its own true nature. And if not, if you're all disturbed by everything, the seer takes on the fluctuations of the mind. So the important thing is to learn to be a witness, a silent witness. And there are a lot of experiments with this. So in the morning, just after getting up and having woken up sufficiently, just sit still for a few minutes and observe the thoughts, feelings, and sensations come and go. Don't interfere with them. And if there's enough calmness, also become aware of the silent witness behind it all. And try that for a couple of weeks, in the morning and the evening. And they need to record all this in their well-being notebook. So anyway, this girl said, I did 5 minutes of stillness in my bathroom for about 2 weeks. It was greatly beneficial for my mental health and has, in my personal opinion, made me a more peaceful person. So she was convinced about that, and it's wonderful that she said that. Okay, contentment is a big deal. So a lot of people suffer from not being content, especially when things go not so well. So when the Yoga Sutras say the highest form of happiness comes from contentment, that is a very important statement. So, so that guy is happy in his cardboard box, obviously. Now, so then they try this out and they say, I learned that you can be content no matter the situation you're in, and that you don't need all different kinds of things to be content. So I've discovered that contentment is about taking care of yourself and enjoying the little things in life, which all add up to a greater thing, contentment. So the highest form of happiness comes from contentment, no matter where you are. So this girl said, I'm in a new house and a new area. There were lots of things to do around my house, but because of COVID, they're all closed. So now there's not much to do outside. But I don't have to go outside to cook, to bake, etc. I know that contentment is a very important part in your life, because if you're not content, you'll never know when to stop asking for more. Wonderful observation. And this is just a girl who's 13 or 14. The highest form of happiness comes from contentment. Again, we need it more now than ever, contentment. Since we're all stuck at home, it's about enjoying the things you have and not wishing for things to be different. And to remember that even though we can't see our friends or our grandparents, there are still 100 things that are still here, like nature, birds, trees, greenery, feeling the quietness of the river. And I can go on all day. There's a content teenager. Since COVID, people naturally became more content and got away from busy life where you didn't have 1 second to think about the present. If you think about it, we all got used to not being able to socialize with our family and friends and became content with ourselves. And when we finally come out of this epidemic, we won't just get back to normal like it was before, I think. We will stay content and have a stronger sense of community with each other. So I think this is brilliant. Then we have these 4 attitudes to calm the mind, again from the Yoga Sutras. The first one is friendliness. So be friendly towards your friends. It's amazing how unfriendly the students tell me that they are to their friends. Compassion, when meeting those in weaker, unhappy circumstances, you really care for them. You're glad when others are doing better than you are. That has given a lot of observations again, because they're saying so-and-so got 100% in their test and I only got 60%. And instead of feeling jealous, I decided to tell them you're very lucky, well done. And they were glad for them. And they felt much calmer because of it. And then equanimity, showing indifference to those who intentionally try to hurt at an emotional level. So again, lots to say about that. So these are practices that they get, like say on the 4 attitudes. Remember these: friendliness, compassion, gladness, and keeping cool. Record the experiments and outcomes. And is your mind any calmer? What is the effect of these practices? Service. Try to dedicate your actions to the Paramatma. Praise someone. Gratitude. Be grateful that you can wake up and play one more day in the creation. Again, record your experiments and outcomes, and is your mind any calmer because you're doing this? And of course they're finding this all over. They're so happy sometimes.
You say, I am. I say, I am. This I am. It's not a person. It is consciousness. It is a godly presence inside each one. We must not use it foolishly. When you say I, remember God. It is the God principle in you that is speaking. You must come to know it as not personal, but impersonal, uncreated, unborn, imperishable. It is the original one. To know this is to find freedom in God. To not know this is to be asleep. Respect, honor, value this name that God gave you, the name I am. It is truth. It is love. It is consciousness. It is God. Remember this deep within your being and be happy. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Good. Well, this gave rise to a lot of enthusiasm. The children learned that song off by heart. It's on YouTube, and it's by Muji, and it's I Am That. And there's lovely music with it, and they were very inspired by that. So this is normally a hard thing to explain from the Yoga Sutras, but after that song, it wasn't so difficult anymore. There's an idea that I am, and there's I'm on the stage, I'm someone, a doer, I'm performing, I'm acting out on the stage. But there is a backstage I am, which is observing, witnessing all this. And that's the gives you new energy, fresh energy. It does so that you don't become stale in your habits. So this is really significant, how the Yoga Sutras explain this and how the children are appreciating this. And again, wonderful observations on this. You think this is too philosophical for them? Not at all, they can get it. So they experiment with this. So again, you know, on a day-to-day basis, record what I add to I am. I am a student, I'm a son, I'm a daughter, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a good boy, I'm a bad boy, I'm a, you know, I'm kind, I'm not kind, etc. Is the memory of just I am, I exist, making me calmer? Is the memory of I am something, a state, a limitation, a negative feeling, making me calmer or annoyed? Oh, that never is the case. So they tell you that also. If I'm stressed, what am I adding to I am? Can I remember backstage while I'm on stage? So they experiment with this and they are brilliant what they have to say. So here's some, it is a public exam in the state exams called the Junior Certificate in Ireland. There's an exam called the Junior Certificate, and they have projects like this girl, Nina, did stretching and dance, and she was brilliant at that. Joanna practiced stillness, quiet times during the day, and so on. They all practice different things. And then that was their final experiment. Young people love experimenting, so it's important that we give them good experiments to try out and not let them experiment all sort of crazy things. So give them good suggestions and they'll practice those. This boy said, I did physical yoga. This impacted me greatly as it calmed me down when my brother irritated me. It also got me ready for the match ahead. I did this with my mum and sometimes my brother. My mum introduced me to it first, and that was one of the main reasons why I went to John Scottis. Yoga definitely had a major impact on my life. And he's only 14 now. So here they're finally doing the exams. It doesn't look like it, but they're actually revising in pairs. It's during COVID, so they're wearing masks, some of them. They've forgotten to take them off. They can take them off outside. Down in the background, near the gravel, you can see people at tables taking students for interviews. I got my friends to interview each student, and they give them grades. So well-being interviews. So they don't do a written exam. They speak. There are 6 questions that they can prepare, and they're being asked and in how genuine a way they answer these people are experienced people. They know if they're speaking truthfully or not, and they give them their grade. And here you can see the teachers that I invite to do they're sitting far apart so that of COVID, of course, they sit diagonally across each other at tables. Luckily, the sun was shining that day. So the whole course is 100 hours long. So that's a year and a half of classes. So 2 hours in first year and 1 hour in second year is 100 hours. And then they got a report. So I've come to the end of my talk now. If you need, contact me, look up sanskrit.ie. This email address is also there. We have just started a Shastra section here. Bhagavad Gita and the Isha Upanishad are on that now. So it's all color-coded and chanted by Gabriela Bernal. So it's very beautiful to hear. And so that was it. Mental well-being, we use Yoga Sutras, and physical well-being, we use Ayurveda. So I'll hand you back to Anuradha Bhagini.
Namaste, Brata, and Bahu Dhanyavadaha for this wonderful presentation. I was smiling throughout because it was very heartwarming to see how these usually quite complex ideas have been brought down, have been reduced to such simplicity and without losing any extent of their efficacy. Because just listening to or just reading or listening to you share the experience of students, we see how they've resonated with the spirit of these sutras, they've resonated with the spirit of the philosophy, and really through these simple videos and very something that they can relate to.
Exactly.
And also, I think it's always important for us to remember that this is also in a context which is not necessarily so familiar with these ideas from their cultural milieu. So for them to connect to it also highlights the universality of these realizations of these great rishis and munis.
Yes.
So, Ati Sundaram Asit. Dhanyavada.
Mm.
Yes, and I also noticed that a lot of our Irish school friends are also present listening to this. A very, very warm welcome to all of them here. So,
Okay.
yes, there are a few questions. A great appreciation for your sharing. So we have Cindy Leverju very early on. She was wanting to know. She said, "Thank you very much. This is very interesting." You spoke about food when you were talking about the Ayurvedic part and how they have to eat their meals. So you're saying, does no snacking in between meals also apply to children?
Oh yes, it's the children who experiment with this. Oh yes, it can be one of their practices. So the important thing is that I don't tell them you must try this. I give them so many choices that some will go for this and others will go for that, whatever they feel is the most necessary in their lives. So because they have a choice, they feel empowered. And then when they, for example, they decide not to snack, you can see what brilliant observations they make about that. Like I read out a few of them to you. So I thought they were just so, like, I eat because I'm bored, was one girl's comment. Wonderful to notice at her age to say such things. I think it was just, and then she said, I'm definitely going to continue doing this. So it's all about creating good habits. Yeah.
Just keep with the questions because you're talking of habits. And we have Karen Keynes who's saying that 5 hours seems like too little sleep. Why this number of hours chosen as a right amount?
No, it's not like that. It's so I tell the children, look, this is right for me, but that doesn't mean it's right for you. You'll have to find your own. They're also growing, so maybe some days they may sleep very long hours because it's so tiring growing, your body growing and all the hormonal changes. So no. That's, everybody has to decide their own level. But it's dangerous to oversleep and to undersleep. You have to find your own right measure.
Yes, I think the school also lays a lot of emphasis on the right measure. Would you like to tell us a little more, because it ties in very beautifully with what we've been discussing with where food is concerned, where observation of the self is concerned. Could you share with us, based again on your experience, your personal experience, as well as the experience of the students, this importance of the right measure of
Yes.
being?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. One of the beginning, you may have seen balance where it says enough is enough. It's a very simple mantra, but it's very true. Like, how do you know what is enough? The first thing you need to know is you have to be awake. So if you're not conscious, you won't tell, you won't know. If you're working from habits, just in the deep sleep, you can't know what is enough. So you need to first of all be awake. For example, if you eat your food, you'll know when you have eaten enough if you really taste your food. But if you miss that because you're too busy, chatting to your friends online or something like that while you're eating, you'll miss that and you might keep eating or you mightn't eat enough. So all that can happen because you're not giving attention to what you're doing. So mostly it's within us. That is all that clock is there telling us, stop now. But you have to be awake before you can, that clock can work. Yeah.
In other words, it's a bit like the in the Yoga Sutra, they talk of that rhythm, that right, rhythm bhara prajna, that consciousness that knows. But as you very rightly pointed out again, that it is waking up, because that thing is there inside, but we don't really listen.
No, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless, yeah, so you have to wake up first.
We're going to ask you for some tips on waking up as well.
Oh,
What has been your secret for waking up on that?
waking up when you get up and getting up when you wake up, both ways. So don't linger on. And it's lovely when you get a bit older and you get into the habit of doing some of these things. Let's say meditate with like clockwork. Always meditate, never skip your meditation. Those sort of things. It's so simple. If you do that, you don't question it anymore. You don't question brushing your teeth. So why would you question meditating? It should become that simple. So that you just spend that time, you have to brush your teeth every day, so you do it. So you need to meditate every day, so you just do it. That's it. Don't question it, just do it.
Yes. So Shefali Kong is saying that thank you for that presentation with young students. Seeing them take so much interest in these practices brings hope for the future generation. And I was particularly impressed about the fact that you've been able to, if I've understood it correctly, integrate it into the Irish examination system. And that's a huge feat. So
Yeah.
can you just tell us how you went about, because trying to do it in India itself is a challenge. So I'm just trying to understand how you were able to present your case so successfully, so that the Irish government recognized its value and made it an examination.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, that is extraordinary. Partly because actually in Ireland, the awareness is there's so much self-harming going on in teenagers that we need, as teachers and parents, we need to do something about it. So we need to spend school time, not so much pumping information into children. We need to train them to become good citizens. So one of the 6 pointers in the junior certificates is well-being. It is one of the issues that is now recognized as a subject that needs to be taught. So if teachers want to submit any well-being course that they think is worthwhile, they're allowed to do it. So I immediately thought of Ayurveda and Yoga Sutras, because nobody else in Ireland will think about that. And yet the wisdom from ancient times is there. So people, at least they now connect with yoga very much all around the world. So yeah, I want to take it a little step further and not think yoga is just a physical thing. It's about mental well-being. It's about calming the ripples in the mind. So, and the children get that completely. They have no, But also we're delighted that the government in Ireland accepts these courses. And there are not many people who have submitted short courses. We have submitted another one on philosophy. And so there are some teachers around Ireland who have submitted some courses, but not that many actually. Yeah. So
Extremely inspiring, and heartiest congratulations again for thinking of it in the first place, and then putting in this hard work to make it very easily accessible to children of that age group. There's another comment by Anjan Nandiji who's saying your programmed courses through dramatic way is giving the wisdom and well-being to the children. How do you convince them to come to your school as they don't have a cultural background and understand the values of yoga from an early age? So, could you share with us a little more about John Scotus
Yeah,
School itself, maybe about the School of Philosophy, the teachers, so that all
yeah.
of us can appreciate this fantastic work that is happening at in Ireland and so many other places around the world through the school?
Yes, well, I suppose it happens in the 70s and the 80s, back in the 20th century, when people were learning philosophy, the practical philosophy from Advaita Vedanta in Ireland and in England and so on, all over the world. So because we had inspiring teachers like Mr. McLaren, who spoke to the Sri Shantananda Saraswati from North India and so on, because we had those connections, we could grow so much easier because they were so clear. They're such brilliant teachers. So because of that, then we could, those parents said we must start a school so that our children don't make the same mistakes we made. They can learn much quicker, much earlier. Often people say, God, I wish I had learned this when I was that age. And so we set up, so John Scottish School, Mary and Michael Telford set up John Scottish School. And then, so I became the teacher there almost from the beginning and have been there ever since. So that branched out. We now have that building, as you could see, in the lovely area of Dublin. And we also have, still in town, we have the primary school where I teach Sanskrit every afternoon. And then we've started another day school for little children in the Old Connaught. The third school has just been begun a year or two now, actually. And that's a wonderful thing. That's where now some of it is fee paying, so that would be a drawback. But people really value good education, so they want their youngsters to go there. And when they come in contact with the school and the students who give them a tour of the building, they really are convinced it's a wonderful place. So the students sell it better than a teacher would. Yeah.
Yes, given a chance, I would also join, I guess. And I know the efforts that Etna, Marion, and Vincent and all
Yeah.
have put in to,
Yeah.
make this project a reality in
Yeah.
such a beautiful location.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the other thing we would like you to share with us, two more, one very personal question is, can you tell us a little bit about your personal journey? What from, because you're from Holland originally, and what brought you into this whole field? What brought you towards
Yeah. Yeah.
this way of looking at life and living on that basis?
Yes, well, I was really very shocked one day when I was about 19 or 20. And a young lady asked me, what's the most important thing in your life? And I couldn't answer that. And I thought, I've been living for 20 years now, and I don't even know what is the most important thing in my life. Then she said, for her, it was philosophy. So I was hooked from that moment. I never turned back after that. And so I enrolled for the courses, evening courses, and so expanded from there. And then I was always interested in mathematics. So I started studying Vedic mathematics. And actually with Shane Mulhall, whose anniversary we're celebrating this evening, because he died 5 years ago. Yeah. So anyway, we spent a lot of time studying Vedic maths, but it was all Sanskrit. So I had to learn Sanskrit to understand Vedic maths. So and so on. It just went on and on like that. And then in 2005, I went to India for the first time to learn Sanskrit Bharati, Pondicherry, the Gurukula, all these places, and they're all open with open arms. I've been accepted everywhere, and everybody wants to help to teach you Sanskrit, and to wonderful people. So that's how it just happened. Like I just fell totally in love with the whole thing.
Yes, Datta, Dattaji, please switch off your sound. Yes. Yes. So, Rutgerji, another thing is that you spoke about your experience, you spoke about coming to India, and I know personally that you've spent like a whole year at the Veda Vijnana
Yes,
Gurukhulam. And then you came in contact with Dr. Narendra from the Sri Aurobindo Ashram in Pondicherry,
yes.
and you were exposed to or you were introduced to
Mhm.
teaching Sanskrit through songs, etc.
Yeah,
Songs
yeah,
and play. So, would you like to
yes.
share with us? Because very often we don't really always appreciate the importance of Sanskrit, even when we are, engaging with yoga or with Ayurveda. Would you
Right.
like to share your personal experience in this
Yes, yeah,
direction?
yeah, yeah. Well, that has been a very powerful, like the most powerful tool in all this has been Sanskrit language. And that's just like a power that I don't probably fully understand how powerful it is myself. So that's working, cleaning you up from the inside. It's like a cleaning agent, I think. And it's so uplifting. So you're attracted. You just want to sing it. You just want to be there with it. And then just say Narendra's genius in putting it simply for children to get Sanskrit broken down in such a way that we can, even in the West, we can learn Sanskrit easily. And where the children say that's their best subject is Sanskrit, that is really a turnaround. It wasn't always like that. So they definitely just by singing, by work, your whole body can learn Sanskrit, not just your brain cells. So it's important that it's a whole experience, isn't it? Sanskrit is an experience rather than just a dry intellectual thing. So yeah.
I remember reading just that statement of Shantananda Saraswati ji, where he's saying that if you study Sanskrit, your life will be pure, simple, and free.
That's it.
And I think that we
Yeah.
see that as a living example in students and teachers who've been
Yeah.
engaging. And also the fact that there have been so many teachers, so many senior teachers at like Michael Delaney, Vincent again, and so many of
Yeah.
you who have been dedicated yourself to the study of Sanskrit, and in the morning you'd get up and read Sanskrit texts. Um, would you also like to help us understand a connection with well-being from this perspective? How has maybe the study of this language, and also, yeah, so how has that also been part of uh, your yogic dedication?
What we do is we don't study vast amounts of texts, but when we study a text, we really go deeply into it. And then let's say we're studying the Katha Upanishad, we might take a few verses, let's say Ashariram Sharireshu, bodiless among the embodied. And just if you reflect on that, imagine this, that you are bodiless among the embodied. This is true for you and for me, it's an extraordinary thing, isn't it? So it really is. And the sound of Sanskrit somehow makes it very accessible. It goes into your ears in some way deeper than you could ever if you were thinking about it. So it becomes an experience, I think. That's the important thing. So where it's a live experience and you feel yourself, blossoming, growing younger rather than older, that's a good sign.
I said you're a living example of this growing younger, because the last time I saw you and now you seem to have grown 10 years younger than 10 years older. So wonderful, wonderful. So, yes. So, again, the last question that I have here is that when you've introduced this course, this well-being course
Yeah.
in the Irish, government curriculum for children, you have to you've also needed to evolve a different way of evaluating this, because it's not what we typically expect in terms of you sit down and write, answer the MCQs and that's the right answer. So
Yeah.
how do you assess the progress and the success of a well-being program?
Yes.
That would also
Okay.
be for us, a lot of the exercises that you've given are exercises that we could do, and exercises that our educationals in India could also adopt. So
Yes. So we assess it. That interview is a very good way of assessing it, because this we tell the students, these are the 6 questions we're going to ask you, and you can prepare them as fully as you can. But we will know if you're speaking truthfully or you're just giving us the pat answer. You know, you can hear the difference between somebody who actually has tried this out for themselves and they know, yes, this is working, or somebody is rattling off a textbook answer. That's not the same thing. So
this is like leaking the question paper in advance.
no problem. Yes, because when you're there with that grown-up adult who has a lot of life experience, they can hear the truth content of what the children are saying immediately, because they you know, when you're a bit older, you know so much that children still have to learn. So you can literally, by listening to their answers, you know, are they, you know, pulling the wool over my eyes or not? They're not. They're doing their best at whatever level they can to make the connection. And that's how they then get their grades. And there are only 3 grades or 4 grades, like above expectations, you know, yet to meet expectations, on target, or excellent. I think that those are the 4 criteria by which they're marked. And so that's how it's done. And I would always agree with that person. How did they know what grade to give them? And I would have done exactly the same thing. That's the interesting thing, that we don't even know. When we discuss it later, yes, I would have done the same as you. I would have given the same grade. Yeah. So it is more measurable than you think. Yeah.
yes, I think it's very beautiful, and also a real experiment and example of evaluating the para part of education. We in the Upanishads they talk of, you know, para and apara vidyas,
Yes.
where
Yes.
apara vidya has to do with all the technical information that you learn, and that I guess would need evaluation the regular way. But
Yes.
how do you introduce first and all the para vidya, which has to do about knowing yourself better and living
Yes.
a more conscious life? And then how do you evaluate that? I guess
Yes.
that's where the roadblock in this kind of a
Yeah.
curriculum really happens. But you also need conscious evaluators. So, and yes,
Exactly. So that's why the interview works much better than a written piece of paper. When you speak to somebody, so much more information is available. You know, when the people go for interviews for a job, for example, it's all about, you know, you're not just saying some words. You're presenting yourself there as well, aren't you? Your whole being is there. So that's what you see, you miss when you get a written paper, what you really connect with when you meet the person. Yeah.
yes, wonderful. I think this is revolutionary to say the least, and exemplary for schools to to acknowledge and also possibly to emulate. So I hope that this what you have shared today with us will be seen by many,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
educators, and also for parents, also for yoga practitioners and teachers who recognize the importance of imparting this very young to children, so
Yes.
that I think the younger you start, the healthier the society will be in a certain sense. So
True.
Bahu dhanyavadaha once again,
Yeah.
extremely grateful. I would like to make the announcements for tomorrow's programs. But in the meanwhile, I will also request you, because you've got so much of material that is available, would you like to either flash, when I come back to you, flash it on the screen where they can reach out to you,
Yes.
know more about your work, to possibly repeat this experiment in their own spheres? And also, if you would like to just give your contact details there, please. And
Yes.
I'll come back to you for a message as well. Um,
Okay.
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 So,
I'll be ready.
thank you. Kotiji, may I request you to please show tomorrow's programs? All right. So tomorrow we have another very insightful session in the morning by again another friend, Vladimir Yatsenko, who is an adjunct faculty at the School of Liberal Arts and Human Sciences at the Oro University, which has a branch also in India, and he's also now presently in the US. He's going to be talking to us on health and healing and integral yoga, but he's a linguist, though from Russian origin. He's a Sanskritist, a linguist, someone who has delved and contemplated deeply on the Vedic texts. So this is, in a sense, a continuation of a different kind with what Rutger ji has presented to us. So please do join us in the morning for his session. In the evening, we have a dialogue between Swamini Pramanandaji and Daniel Arturo Abreu Media, who is a whale cetacean expert from the Dominican Republic. And Swaminiji is a spiritual head of Purna Vidya. So they will be talking on healing, the healing power of nature. Uh, this is a program that is being organized also in collaboration with the Global Peace Initiative of Women. Please join us for both these sessions and stay with us and enrich us also with your questions, as we always love to have this interaction and learn from your experiences as well. There is just one question before I come back to you. I'll just possibly take that by a friend from Italy, Patricia Mayer, who's saying, Namaste, dear all from Italy. Was giving this morning a yoga class at a summer camp for children and proposed to chant the Sanskrit alphabet after the questions on the names of the asanas. Children were enthusiastic and very, very interested. So we see how, irrespective of the country or culture you come from, these sounds, these philosophies have a natural resonance with people here. So over to you, Rutger ji, Rutger Bhrata, for the letting us know how people can reach out and know more about your work.
Okay, so that website really would be enough to remember, sanskrit.ie. I think that would get you, this email address is there and all the other things are there. So I just literally click on sanskrit.ie. That's not difficult to remember.
Great. Yes. So before I come to you for your final message, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you, to thank the entire School of Practical Philosophy and Economic Science, especially the Irish branch, because we both Vinay and I have been very, very fortunate to have been part of that family, and grown, shared, enjoyed the interaction with all of you. Ethna, I'd like to take Ethna Dorman's name here, Miss Ethna Dorman's, because she's been played a very important role with the school and the driving force to ensure that it gets all the financial and other kinds of support to make it run. Marion Flaherty ji, who's here also, is another Sanskrit teacher
Yes.
Who's a big force behind this joyfulness of Sanskrit and
Yes.
well-being. And I see Vincent Wallace also. There are just so many friends from Ireland who have joined us today. I'm sorry if I leave anybody out, but it's fantastic that they've also participated in this session to add to the success of this evening's program. So I invite all of you to please share this, because as we've seen, it really offers us another way of looking at education itself and making these ideas easily understood, reachable and comprehensible by our younger generation through pictures, through simple stories, etc. Rutger will tell us much more when you get in touch with him. So Rutger, please, what is it that you would like to leave us with? Some inspiring thoughts that will take us further. That will want us to pick up the phone soon after this is done and say, Rutger, yes, I want you. Please, can you tell us what can I do in my school? So
just enjoy, even this lockdown, you can learn a lot about yourself. I found it's a time for growth, and just a wonderful thing to be able to just be in your own company and share. We are much better at sharing with each other now through Zoom and all sort of media. And remember, contentment is always there on your doorstep. You never have to go anywhere to find contentment. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
So thank you very much once again, Rutger Brata, Bahu Dhanyavadaha, and Punar Milamaha. We'll all
Ah,
meet again. I'd just like to share with our friends that all our videos are recorded and available on indicayoga.com. Indica Yoga's website, at what I just told you, the YouTube channel, as well as the Facebook page. So if you've missed out on any session, please feel free to go back and look at the events page. You have all the programs. This is also the second edition that we're doing. So we have a valuable stock of repository of fantastic sharings from our global festival last year as well. Please feel free to direct your students, your friends to come to these sessions, because it's a tremendous opportunity to interact in person as well with these experts, which is not always very easy to get. So thank you very much. Namaste and Punar Milamahat. Bahut dhanyavadaha. Thank you very much.